When I talk about the mechanics of piano playing, I'm talking about just a few things that the hand does on the keyboard. So one of those would be just a 5-finger position. Another thing that the hand does is spreads. One of them is it crosses the fingers. And mostly it's just the thumb doing this. One of them is lifting and landing. And another one is just handfuls of chords or handfuls of notes in other situations like that. And then one of them is I just kind of clump everything together. Everything else, because everything else is just kind of rare. And one of those is this multitasking thing that we do with the hand, where we've got one part of the hand doing something and another part of the hand doing something else. And then little Bach things, like, and I call them Bach fingerings because they happen in Bach more often because of just the style of music. But something like a play and substitute finger, something like that. Or crossing a long finger under another long finger, which is always the hardest thing to do, right? Because the hand doesn't like to move like that on the keyboard. Okay, so this piece I think is terrific for training those kinds of Bach fingerings or etude fingerings that I call, because there's a bunch of them in this piece. And there's also a lot of multitasking that happens. So right finger, right note, we're just gonna put the right finger on the right note. I see middle line here, it's B. Okay, remember the B, D lines, B and D here and B and D here, always the B on the bottom. And then we're going to multitask by playing this clef line G and the D right below the inside line. Up a second. The second finger stayed in the same spot. We're gonna put fourth finger there and substitute fifth finger. Why? So that we can have a fourth finger available for the A. And then you can lift and land here if you choose to. And the reason we can lift and land here is because there is the end of this phrase, right? This is the end of this phrase mark here, so that it's okay to clip that off a little bit. If you want to connect it, you're going to have to bring fourth finger under third finger, which is really challenging. You kind of have to cheat. It's hold that third finger on there, shorten fourth finger, and just kind of move your wrist up a little bit, right? That's a really tricky advanced kind of fingering, which if it's just me, I'm just going to do a lift and land there. A little lift and land. And if I go, here we go. These two fingerings here, where we've got the 4 substitute. This is called a finger substitution. So we're playing with one finger, substituting another. And I try to do that whenever I have these. I try to do it right as soon as I play the note. I'm not trying to line up, and sometimes it will happen where it's strategic, where you do the substitution where you on the other multitasking part of the hand. But in this situation, I try to just do it as fast as I can. So take a minute and practice just playing with fourth finger and switching to holding it with your pinky. And you can do it really lightly, like not a lot of tension in the hand. If you just take a minute to do that. And it's nice because the fourth finger is longer, bigger, and you're just bringing that pinky down. It's harder, I think, if you have to do it the other way. And that way you can play 3 legato notes with just 2 fingers. Okay? And you can practice the inside notes separately if you want to, just these. And I'm just doing really nice, short, not staccato, not popping them, but just quiet dyads. Because there's 2 notes, we call them dyads. So we go. And you'll notice I'm playing the top notes louder. I definitely have to do a lifted land there. And when I do this lift and land, I have to make sure I'm feeling that inside of my fourth finger to the inside of that black E. Otherwise I'll miss it. Now that I'm feeling more confident, I'm going to add in a little bit of rhythm. 1 and 2 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. When you can count it confidently, add in some expression. And you'll notice I've already been doing it. It's quiet. It's simple is what it says. Make it easy, right? Now, what I'm trying to do is bring out the top note. And if you need to practice this, if you're challenged to do this, exaggerate. Play the top note as loud as you can and the middle notes as quietly as you can as a way to practice control. And if you can do that with control, then you can bring it back a little bit. And then always, since there's a phrase mark here, I'm gonna feel for that phrasing. I'd like to hear a crescendo and a diminuendo there, right? And so maybe this note is the loudest one, even though it's not the highest note. That's just how that one worked out. Switch to the left hand. There's just a couple of shapes in the hand. And let's practice landing, especially on that downbeat of the next phrase. We've got a shape here and then this shape. So notice those shapes, and it's totally okay when you're learning fingerings. This is like the tactile part of playing the piano, to just chunk it. Those are the two shapes that we need. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. Okay, just nothing really to it, just making them nice and quiet. I'm just absolutely touching the key before I play it. And then playing on the upbeat is always the challenge. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and then putting these two together. 1 and 2 and. The first time it's like, take your time. You're just going for accuracy. And it helps if you're not talking. Okay? And then when you feel like you can do it accurately, add in the rhythm. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 2 and 1. That's the first phrase. We've got it. And what's nice about this piece is that it's a common texture throughout. And I'm always looking for pieces like that, especially for learning, for learners, for students. Because if you've got a common texture, once you have that first phrase down, you know how to practice the rest. It's just about inputting the notes. It's about like figuring out the puzzle a little bit. When you've got a puzzle that has different textures and different spots, that can be helpful, but this is like a little puzzle with one texture. And once you kind of get the idea, it should come down together pretty well. I don't know if that analogy really panned out for me. But you get what I'm saying. It's got a common texture throughout. I'm gonna just do some right hand. So right here from this 5 to 4, I'm going to have to cross over my fourth finger over the pinky. And you can do that. Pinkies are really short and you can cross over like that. And it just looks a little bit wonky for the hand because these four fingers like to move together. So if you're gonna come over, bring all of them, okay? Bring your friends. And there's a little bit of cheating that happens. And then the reason we play thumb here, definitely want your thumb on that one. You're going to bring your thumb up so that you've got plenty of room for moving the fourth finger over. Hard to see it, but that's what's happening. But here we go. 3, 5, thumb, bring 4 over. And then do a little lift and land there. Lift and land. Left hand. Really just one position. And then this octave. And So you could say this is the chunk, right? There's nothing wrong with chunking. Finger over. Okay, and then the next phrase repeats the first phrase. That's pretty good. Here we are. Again, 4/5. Okay, all we're listening for really is just a nice connected, smooth melody in the top note. When you've got that nice smooth feeling of that melody happening, then that's really what this piece is about. It's just about finding that melody, connecting it. I'm going to go back to measure 9 so we can practice talking about this phrasing, right? Getting some crescendo going. So maybe what we want to do is extend this phrase to make this one. It's nice because the very first phrase I did this. I got louder and then I got softer. And that's fine. But if we're really going to connect the phrases so we feel in eighths, right? In 8 measures, keep it quiet. And then let's go ahead and land. This is our strongest note. Okay. That's the first part of this piece. Going on to the B section. It's a little different sound. Same texture. Okay, there's some extra challenges here. Not really though, because if you think about, my thumb is anchored on this G. It's the same note all the way through. There needs to be a lift and land here, or you're gonna have to bring your pinky under your fourth finger, which is okay too if you want that connected sound. I think it's totally okay to break there. Okay, this is the last phrase here, this phrase. This is one of the harder ones. Just because of the melody that's happening. 4/5. And then a slide if you want. You can lift here or you can slide. Or lift and land. I like the slide just because it's fun. That 4/5 is a little challenging. You want to just make sure that you're landing with a 3 here. Right? Slide. That's how we're going to land on that phrase. The next one's a little bit challenging too. Left hand, a little bit more movement. More just scales. It's not too bad in the left hand. Slide. And we've got this nice slide here. Now this this is a challenge. We've got something happening here. Okay, we're gonna go 5. It's a quick note. 3/5. Okay, and we just need that so that we've got room to put 4th finger on that note. Okay, a little bit more happening in the left hand. And then this scale. And then if you can count it, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 2 and 1. So it's these two finger substitutions that are a little bit challenging, adding in a little bit crescendo to that. 1 and 2 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. Okay, and then we're gonna back off through here. This is maybe the hardest little jog in the whole piece. Just making sure where I was at. Okay, so our first finger here is 3. So we're 3, 4, bring 4th. You have to slide it and then substitute. I don't know if that's the best way to do it. Maybe put 5-2 substitution. Experiment. I think I like that better. I think it's 5-2. The 4-2 is like you have to come from a slide, and that's not going to be great. Like slide and then have to substitute. So let's go 5-2. Now the whole point of this piece is to make a nice, beautiful melody, to make something that sounds, I don't know if lyrical is the right word, but just like connected and smooth and singing, and then shaping that phrase. Meanwhile, we've got some multitasking happening in the hands, which is great. This kind of thing happens when you play contrapuntal music like J.S. Bach or anything that is a fugue. This happens all the time, and you have to practice bringing out different voices. And I find that extremely satisfying and very fun because it's a puzzle. You know, it's that kind of musical puzzle where you're hearing different lines. This one has a common texture throughout. So the melody is always in the top, and the multitasking is always the same thing. So once you kind of have the coordination down, it's a matter of just working out smooth fingerings, getting those finger substitutions really quick. And then just working out the phrasing, working out the crescendo and diminuendo of each of those phrases. And if you can hear where the line goes, then you're going to play this just really, really beautifully. So enjoy.